everyone, and welcome to the Fake Love and Flying Monkeys mini podcast. My name is Nova Gibson, and I am your host. As an expert on coercive control and narcissistic abuse in domestic violence relationships, my goal, my desire in these podcasts is to support victims and survivors and their families. So please hit that follow button, subscribe to this channel so you never miss another episode of Fake Love and Flying Monkeys. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fake Love and Flying Monkeys. Today's episode is about the children of narcissists, in particular, adult children of narcissists. Now, I am a firm believer that if it's possible, the children of narcissists probably suffer the worst out of any victim of a narcissist, in that they have been subjected to the ongoing manipulation and grooming and wearing down of any type of self-esteem, or really the prevention of that self-esteem forming in the beginning. They have been subjected to this over the entirety of their lifetime. They were born into this abusive situation. They were born with a job, and that job is to revere their parent no matter what. They are assigned a role at birth or shortly after, and the narcissist knows innately which child to assign the role of golden child or scapegoat child or invisible child, depending on that child's nature and how easily they can be manipulated and support the narcissist's grandiose view of themselves that they want projected out to the outside of the world. So children of narcissists are born into it, and they most of the time don't even know that this is abusive, because of course as they're growing up, this is their normal. This is how people who love you treat you, and they're conditioned to believe that someone who loves you controls you, that abuse and love go hand in hand, and control and love are the same thing. So this episode is specifically about adult children of narcissists. And I talk to so many people who come to see me in my practice that have this toxic relationship with their mother or their father or both, that they simply can't understand, which is causing them so much pain as an adult, with that parent never being happy with anything they do. The goalposts are always shifted. They insert themselves into their adult child's life, seeming to cause absolute chaos and drama. And yet that adult child, as any child does, is craving the love of a parent who just won't give it to them, no matter how hard they try. So the children of narcissists are conditioned their entire lifetime to owe that parent through what we call the FOG. That's an acronym, FOG, fear, obligation, and guilt. They feel obligated to tolerate however they're being treated by their parent, simply by way of the fact that this person gave birth to them, and that's a debt to that narcissistic parent that will never ever be paid in full. So it's a terrible thing when you feel obligated to engage with this parent, and yet every time you come out of that interaction just feeling crazy, feeling like you've been abused. You perhaps go to visit them because you feel obligated to once again, and the exasperating comments that come out of their mouth, which are baiting you. They're designed to get a reaction from you. They're designed to elicit a response. And most of the time, no one else can hear the barb, if you will, that is attached to that comment. For example, an example I use in my book, Fake Love, Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse, is when Sophie visits her toxic mother out of obligation, even though she knows that it will be not an enjoyable experience and that she'll have to recover from it when she gets home. Nonetheless, she visits her mother, and her mother inevitably will say something that will make Sophie feel bad about herself. Maybe it's just a comment about her weight, but it won't be designed to appear as an insult, such as, "Oh, look, I'm really concerned about you, Sophie. You know, it's not good to be overweight, and I'm worried about your health. Have you thought about, exercising and looking after yourself a bit better?" So, it's those types of comments that have barbs attached to them that are given under the disguise of caring, which are really meant to insult you. And of course, they get the desired effect, which is you feel horrible about yourself. But it's a lose-lose situation, because if you say anything, that narcissistic parent will come back with a comment like, "Well, I'm only saying this because I care about you." Now, children of narcissists are conditioned over their lifetime to be dependent on that parent for every scrap of self-worth, which of course is zero, but they go back nonetheless, thinking that this will be the time they'll be happy for me. Maybe I can please them. And it doesn't get better as that child becomes older, as they turn into an adult. It actually gets worse, because that adult child of the narcissist now is unable to leave because of the dependence, but not only that, because of that obligation to that parent, and the parent's now getting older, and also because that narcissistic parent, their supply is starting to dry up as they get older. They don't have as many sources available to them, and they fall back very heavily on their adult child, who has never been able to break away from that toxic environment. And because the narcissistic parent has actually stepped up their abusive strategies, which of course are instilling that obligation and the guilt that comes with any failings in adhering to the obligation to that narcissistic parent. It's not only the fear, obligation, and guilt that keeps adult children of narcissists, ACONs we call them, that's an acronym, stuck in this abusive environment. It's also the expectations that come from society. You can't leave your parent. You've only got one parent. They gave birth to you, and you can't just leave them. That would be a terrible thing to do. So you've got this pressure from society to tolerate the abuse. And you've also got the fact that much of the time, the narcissistic parent very covertly has kept that abuse behind closed doors and projected this image of being this amazing parent to the outside world. So many people have only seen that parent that they view as a loving, kind parent who's, not perfect, but they have the best interests of their child at heart. So what that means is no support if you try to leave or break off that relationship. No one understands. In intimate relationships, people will say, leave, okay, just get out. But when it comes to an abusive parent, victims, adult children get told to go back. You've only got one parent. How would you feel, if they died, something happened to them and you weren't talking to them? So there's so much pressure on top of the fog, and of course the trauma bond that children develop as well because of that roller coaster of ups and downs and ups and downs, and the immense relief when they get the breadcrumbs of the parent being nice to them, which follows a bout of abuse or a bout of the silent treatment. They crave those breadcrumbs, which create a powerful trauma bond. These toxic parents also seek to isolate their children. When their child becomes a teenager and does what teenagers do, they want to spread their wings and, find their place in the world. That's a betrayal to the narcissistic parent, who must be the number one person in their life. So they set about destroying anything that diverts their child's attention away from that parent, such as, things that might take them away from home, university courses, things like that. Relationships, they will seek to destroy their child's friendship groups if they see that friendship is becoming more important in their child's life than the narcissistic parent, or that friend is making them happy. And that's a betrayal to the narcissistic parent. Anyone else that makes you happy offends the narcissist, because they must be the only person who is responsible for any happiness in their child's life. In essence, the narcissistic parent sees it as their right to keep their children around as long as they live, to use as a punching bag that child owes them. And unfortunately, much of the time they have society backing them up, telling that child victim, the adult child victim, that they should tolerate the abuse, and basically doing exactly the same thing that the narcissistic parent did to them, which is to minimize and rationalize and defend the abuse away, because after all, you only get one parent. So this is just a brief snapshot, and I'm going to be doing lots of episodes on the toxic narcissistic parent and the children of narcissists and what they experience, and of course providing strategies to escape and heal and grieve the parent that they never had and they never will have. So listen out for those episodes, guys, because if you have a toxic narcissistic parent and you are feeling like it's your duty to subject yourself to ongoing criticism for your own good and because you owe them, then I think the upcoming episodes are going to provide you with a lot of validation and insights and, of course, strategies for you to escape and realize your worth. So that brings us to the end of another mini Fake Love and Flying Monkeys podcast. I hope that you found this information insightful. We talked about the toxic parent and just a couple of the strategies they use to keep their adult child hooked in that abusive, toxic environment. They feel unable to leave. We talked about the fear, obligation, and guilt that the narcissistic parents instill in their children. So they feel like it's their duty to tolerate the abuse and that they would be a bad person if they left. And we talked about the isolation that the toxic parent engages in with their child, so that they have no one that believes them or supports them with what they're going through. So if you did find this episode insightful, guys, I would love it if you could rate this podcast and, of course, leave a review. That's the best thing you can do to keep this podcast going. And for more information, don't forget to subscribe to my other social media platforms. Don't forget also to get your copy of my best-selling book, Fake Love, Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse, HarperCollins. And if you would like to have a one-on-one session with me, please just see the link below my website to book an appointment. On that note, it's bye from me for now, guys. Until the next episode, remember, you're worthy of so much love, and you are certainly worthy of a whole lot more than a lifetime of fake love and flying monkeys.